O'clock hour. In the opening segment today, we talked quite a bit about Damar Hamlin and the story in Cincinnati, an update, the family statement, and more. And then Dr. Neelis Goswami, who did a great job of understanding or helping us understand quite a bit of what was going on at the time with Hamlin. We're now joined by Hall of Fame columnist John McClain, has covered the NFL for decades. John, your thoughts about watching what was going on in Cincinnati?
The first thing I thought about when I heard that they were doing CPR, I thought about Chuck Hughes, the Lions receiver, who's the only player to die during a game. He died of a heart attack on October 24th, 1971, when I was a senior at Richfield High School. And I was a big football fan then, diehard Cowboy fan. I remember it wasn't as big a deal as you would have thought. His wife lives in San Antonio, and NBC contacted her today and put out a story that I retweeted. She was watching it last night as long as she could before she fell asleep. She's 77. And she said the difference in medical treatment today and what they had in 71, that was like the Stone Age. And they took Chuck Hughes off in an ambulance and continued to play the game. And so that's the first thing I thought about. I thought about Gary Kubiak. Gary Kubiak was going to die on the sideline of a stroke at a game in 2013 here, and the doctor saved his life. And he had to take a few games off. But I've seen guys paralyzed from vicious hits and didn't play again. But for some reason last night, with all the players around, huddled around, and with the looks on their faces and some of them crying and seeing the people in the stands, this one hit harder for everybody. And the people, the unsung heroes that I think will be praised as soon as we find out that Damar Hamlin's out of the woods, are the people who got out there to take care of him. Every NFL stadium has an emergency response. They go over it over and over and over. And they activated immediately. They were out there in 30 seconds, and they saved his life. You know, his heart had stopped beating, his no pulse, and he was dead. And they brought him back to life. And those people doing it under such pressure, knowing they were on national TV with a sellout crowd with players from both teams surrounding them, watching them. You talk about people that should be praised, and you know when Hamlin is able to recover, that he's going to want to make sure to thank them.
John, a lot of conjecture about the NFL response last night and what people thought was taking too long to make the decision. Do you think that they handled it well? And is part of this the fact that no one really publicly trusts Roger Goodell not to lean towards the business interest first, but did they handle it the right way?
I think they handled it great. I saw one idiot today say Goodell should have been on TV answering questions. No, Goodell was having to communicate with Troy Vincent from the league office with the owners. And when they showed the coaches, Sean McDermott and Zach Taylor, outside one of the locker rooms, Katie Blackburn, Mike Brown, the Bengals owner's daughter who runs the team, she was there on the phone. So the last thing they need to do was answer questions about something they had no clue about. And then it got out. Joe Buck put it out that they were going to warm up for 5 minutes and come back and play. And in the news conference afterward, they said there's no way they were going to do that. Troy Vincent, the right-hand man, he played for years. He said, as soon as I saw him go down, I went into my player mode. And Joe Buck told Andrew Marchand of the New York Post today, he said that because their guy, John Perry, who is their officiating expert, heard it from somebody in the league office. Well, they shouldn't have put that out there without checking it out with somebody officially. So I thought the NFL did a great job. I think can't wait to see what they're going to do now. They could declare it a no contest. They could give them both a tie, or because there's an open date there's a bye week between championship game and the Super Bowl. And a lot of times they play games on that weekend, and coaches and players, they don't like to buy anyway. So what they could do is go ahead and play the last weekend of the season now, and then have Buffalo and Cincinnati, who are playing for home field advantage as well as Kansas City. play the only game on wild card weekend and move the wild card round, the division round, and the championship games back 1 week, and that would be something that would be easy to do logistically. But because if you just declared a no contest, if you give ties, there's going to be teams and fans that don't like it, but they can't complain about it because the situation is unprecedented.
John, Jalen Petrie got another interception, but the Texans also got another loss, and it's just kind of countdown now to I guess, a coaching search. I mean, what's kind of the thought process right now in Houston as far as where they are, where they thought they would be, and where they're going?
Well, most people want them to lose, so they'll get the first pick of the draft. And if they lose to the Colts, and Sam Ehlinger is now the starting quarterback, and I think that's good for the Colts because he's going to want to put on a good show for all of his friends back in Texas, his family, and his Longhorn fans. And I think he'll play well. And the Colts should win that game. The Texans' effort that they put out against the Jaguar was pathetic, and it was surprising considering how well they played in the 3 previous games. I think Lovie Smith will end up getting fired next week. I think that they'll get the first pick in the draft, have their choice of any player. When I watched Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, I knew it was Bryce Young. Then I watched C.J. Stroud come back and have his best game of the year against the number 1 team, and I thought him. And then I'm thinking, you know what? It's just best to have a choice. And that way you can have a choice of any of them. If they were to beat the Colts, who they tied in the first game, 2020, and Chicago loses to Minnesota, which it should, the Bears will get the first pick. They don't need a quarterback, so they'd say we're open for bidding. And so a lot of teams need quarterbacks, no telling what they give up. You don't want to have to give up picks to get the quarterback you want, so just do it the old-fashioned way and get your butt beat again.
John, what do you think about the Jaguars and the job Doug Peterson's done now sitting there at 8-8?
They got out to a slow start. Peterson's doing a really good job. There's several coaches, Brian Dable, Kyle Shanahan's doing a remarkable job with what's happened to the 49ers in San Francisco. Nick Sirianni did a good job with the Eagles. And I'm writing a column for Gallery Sports tomorrow with my postseason award winners. And most of them are pretty cut and dried. Coach of the year is going to be difficult. And most people are going to vote for Brian Dable. I'm leaning toward Shanahan because they won 8 in a row, and he's doing it with Brock Purdy. We saw Brock Purdy at Iowa State. Did any of us think he could play in the NFL? No. Well, I thought he might be on a practice squad at best, and they're doing a magnificent coaching job. And as far as the Texans, I just don't want them to blow the first pick. They've had it 3 times in their existence. David Carr, he's the only quarterback bombed out in 02. 06, Mario Williams was really good. At 14, Jadeveon Clowney was really good, but they let both those guys get away.
John, we appreciate you as always. Hope you had a great Christmas, holidays, and also a new year. And Happy New Year, by the way.
And Happy New Year to you guys, and sick 'em.
Sick 'em. John McClain. GallerySports.com, Houston 610, also with us on Tuesdays in the 530